Mom had the plates out when I came up. Toast, over-easy eggs, and the perfect smear of hot sauce on the side. She used to do that in high school before dawn welding practice. For a second, I let myself believe it meant something. I'll only be gone 2 days, I said, sliding into the chair across from her. Just a maintenance gig at the mill in Brookings, and I start the new job Monday. She nodded, stirring her coffee slow. That's great, honey. It sounded automatic, not engaged. Her eyes stayed on the phone beside her, even when I smiled. I know. It's not a big place like Morocco was, but it's steady pay, full-time benefits. I'll finally clear the last of what I owe you. Still no eye contact, just a distracted hum. She typed something and angled the screen away. I focused on the eggs. Don't make it awkward, I told myself. She let me stay when I needed it. She didn't have to. When I stood to rinse my plate, she finally looked up and said, "Drive safe." "I will," I said. She kissed my cheek a little too, fast, and pulled me into a side hug like we were putting on a show for an invisible audience. Then she returned to the phone. Morning light threw long shadows across the drive as I walked to the car. My duffel clanked with welding tools. I placed it in the trunk like I was packing a restart. As I backed out, I glanced at the house once and saw the curtains shift. A sliver. Just enough. I turned onto our street about 6:32, hours ahead of plan. The work wrapped sooner than expected, and all I wanted was sleep. My hands still smelled like hot steel and burnt rubber, familiar, grounding. But as I slowed in front of the house, I saw them. Black trash bags. Dozens lined along the edge of the yard. Some ripped open, spilling socks, sweaters, notebooks, even my welding gloves, into the patchy grass near the gate. My duffel sat upright, like it had been thrown and landed wrong. My gaming monitor leaned crooked against the mailbox, unwrapped, exposed, just beyond the bags. My mother, holding her phone like she was filming a step-by-step. Next to her, Noel had her arm extended selfie style, giving her followers the full spectacle. I heard her before I even got out. And there she is, back from another business trip. Still owing $8,000 in rent. Watch closely, folks. This is what entitlement looks like. Griffin paced like a bouncer with nowhere to be. When he spotted me, he smirked, wandered to a bag, and kicked it hard enough to send my book skidding into the dirt. Finally, he muttered, "The family freeloader is out for good." I opened my mouth, and nothing came. It felt like a switch had been flipped in my chest and all the air drained out. My mom lifted her phone and narrated, voice polished and performative. Callista Wren, 29, living in my basement for months like a parasite. No more. This is your eviction notice. Public and permanent. Neighbors froze on their porches. Mrs. Valen across the street clenched her dog leash in both hands, face unreadable. Mr. Linton filmed from behind a hedge. No one moved. No one spoke. I bent slowly, picked up the hardcover that had slid from the bag. The jacket was bent. I straightened it, set it aside, lifted the next thing. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I kept loading my car, piece by piece, while Noel's voice ran behind me like it was her job. I shut the trunk gently and turned once more. They were still filming, still smiling. "Enjoy the show," I said quietly. "You'll be hearing from me soon." I had just closed the back door when the porch door slammed open. My dad marched down the steps, face red, jaw locked, and without a word, he flung a set of keys at me. They hit my cheek with a dull thud and dropped into the gravel. "Take your junk and get out," he barked. "You're not our daughter anymore. Real adults don't mooch off their parents at your age." I blinked, rubbed the spot where the metal struck, then stooped to pick up the keys. I didn't flinch, not in front of him. He stood there with arms crossed, waiting for a dramatic scene. Noel adjusted her camera for a better angle. Griffin paced again, grinning like he'd already won. I opened the driver's door, climbed in, and closed it with deliberate quiet. Before starting the engine, I looked through the glass at all three of them. Mom with her rehearsed indifference, Noel with her manufactured disgust, Griffin with his practiced cruelty. Then I looked at my dad. He didn't look away. But something flickered, confusion maybe, when I didn't either. I turned the key, rolled away slow, and didn't look back. I drove aimlessly for a while. Streets I knew blurred into one another. At some point, I parked at the grocery store, headlights off, engine on, palms on the wheel. I didn't remember the envelope until I pulled up at Elena's place, her porch light still on. It had sat at the bottom of my file bin for over a year. Thick paper, no return address, just my name in my grandfather's careful hand. He'd handed it to me in the hospital a few weeks before he passed, said, "Don't open it unless things get bad." I never thought I'd need to, but everything in me said, "Open it." I set my overnight bag down, pulled the envelope from the side pocket, and laid it across my knees. Lena brewed tea, set it by me, then slipped to her room without questions. She knew I'd talk when I was ready. I stared a long time before lifting the flap. It came up cleanly, like it had been waiting. Inside were a folded letter, several notarized documents, and a business card from a downtown law firm. The letter was shorthand written. "Callista, if you're reading this, it means they've done what I feared. I couldn't shield you from them while I was alive, so I'm doing it now. I've placed part of the house, the lake cabin, and the shop building in your name. It's all legal, fully documented. You don't owe them anything. Not apologies, not silence, not guilt. This is for when they forget what you're worth. Grandpa." The room wavered. My fingers trembled, not from grief, but from something sharper. Clarity. The papers backed it up. A living trust. My name stood next to percentages. 40% of the family home, 50% of a lake cabin in Coos County, 35% of the commercial building where my dad's business operated on Riverdale Street. The card at the bottom read, "Arthur Dorsey, Estate and Property." Law. The next morning I called. His receptionist hesitated until I said my grandfather's name, then offered a last-minute slot that afternoon. Mr. Dorsey's office sat in an old stone building by the university. Mahogany furniture, a quiet, ticking clock, walls of legal volumes. He remembered me at once. "You used to come with him," he said. "Always had that little red sketchbook." I nodded. He reviewed everything carefully, flipping with the precision only decades can build. When he looked up, his face was unreadable, his voice steady. "It's all valid. The trust was finalized before your grandfather died. They can't legally remove you, sell without your consent, or plead ignorance. If they've been collecting rent or taking loans against any of these, they may have a bigger problem than they realize." I sat back, heart steadying. "I'm ready to proceed," I said. He leaned in slightly. "Then let's begin." The first text arrived that night. Noel, 8:47 p.m. "Hey, hope you're not mad. The stream wasn't meant to embarrass you. It was just content. You know the algorithm." I didn't reply. By morning, there were 12 more. 2 missed calls from Mom, a voicemail from Griffin. "You're overreacting. It wasn't that serious. You know how she gets. Just come back and be an adult." I forwarded it all to Mr. Dorsey. By midday, Dad's name lit my screen. "Dad, 1:14 p.m. We need you to sign a few things. No drama, just paperwork. No explanation, no apology, just orders, as if I were an employee missing a deadline." Mr. Dorsey replied on my behalf with a formal notice that all communications should go through his office. He CC'd their family lawyer. I killed red receipts and let silence do its job. I spent the next hours sorting the few things I'd salvaged. Lena cleared a shelf, and I stacked my books there. Less than half my collection, but enough. I folded clean clothes, set the monitor carefully near the desk, and stared at the dent in its frame. Then I grabbed a pen. I hadn't kept a journal in years, but that night I opened a blank notebook and wrote one line. They only heard me when I stopped explaining. After that, the words came easier. Not rage, not revenge, observations. What I saw in their eyes, what I didn't find in their hearts, what I confused for safety, what I would never unknow. When I closed the journal, my phone still buzzed every few minutes. Noel's voice notes, Griffin's guilt with an edge, Dad's insistence. I set the phone face down and let it hum into the mattress. They were loud. They'd always been loud. This time my quiet said more than their shouting ever had. 2 days. Later, Mr. Dorsey called, calm but clipped. "We've finished reviewing the income history," he said. Your parents and brother have been collecting rent from the lake cabin and the commercial building. None of it disclosed to you. I shut my eyes. How much? Just over $50,000. 3 years of tenant payments. Your share wasn't even acknowledged, he said. Acknowledged, like it was a box they forgot to tick. We both knew better. By day's end, certified letters went to their lawyer with the exact amount owed and my ownership percentages. Dorsey also contacted banks tied to business loans on the commercial property. If financing went through without all stakeholder signatures, they were exposed too. The silence that followed felt different. Not stunned, not wounded, calculating. 3 days later, Griffin showed up at my new job. Quiet Tuesday. Lunch just started, and I was heading to the back lot when I saw him leaning on my car, arms folded, phone in hand. I kept walking, didn't pause. "Callista," he said, too casual. "Got a minute?" I kept the keys in my grip, ready. He stepped into my path. "We need to talk." I looked straight at him. "You're trespassing. Move." He leaned closer, voice low and tight. "You're tearing the family apart over a technicality. That money wasn't yours. You want to play this lawyer game? Fine, but it won't end how you think." I didn't flinch. Step away from my car. 2 coworkers appeared by the exit. One called my name. Griffin glanced over, then backed off, muttering. "I won't say it again," I said, pulling out my phone. "This is harassment. Leave." Security met me by the door minutes later. He was already gone. Inside, I filed an incident report and sent the parking lot footage to Dorsey. He replied within the hour, noted and logged, proceeding as discussed. They'd thrown the first punch. Now they'd learned to play defense. They came on a Thursday, at dusk. I heard the knock, sharp, impatient, then too many voices. I went to the door without opening it. The security feed on my phone confirmed what I knew. All 4. My mother clutching a tissue. My father with arms crossed and jaw set. Griffin leaning on the wall like this was beneath him. Noel half watching the door, half scrolling. "Callista," Mom called, voice cracking. "Please, honey, we just want to talk. This has gotten out of hand." Dad stepped forward. "Open the door. You're acting like a child." Griffin muttered something I couldn't catch. Noel didn't look up. I let the pause stretch. Let the discomfort gather. Dad knocked again. "Harder, we are your family. You can't shut us out over paperwork." I spoke clearly, loud enough for the mic. "All future communication goes through Mr. Dorsey. You've been notified." A beat, like they hadn't expected me to answer at all. Mom again, thinner now. "You don't have to do this. We can work it out. Just the 5 of us. We'll delete the videos, we'll fix it." On the feed, Noel glanced at her phone and tucked it behind her back. She wasn't here to make peace. She was here to capture it. "I'm not discussing anything without legal representation," I said. "If you remain, I will call building security." Dad's face darkened. "So you're hiding behind lawyers." "You told me I wasn't your daughter," I said. "Remember?" Griffin looked away. Noel started typing. Mom dabbed her eyes, suddenly out of words. They stood there another minute. Then they left. Quiet. As the hall cleared, I locked the deadbolt and opened my laptop. Dorsey had just emailed a file marked Settlement Negotiation, Initial Draft. The offer landed 2 days later. Their attorney told Dorsey they'd transfer full ownership of the lake cabin to me if I waived any claim to back rent or future income from the commercial building. Dorsey didn't hesitate. "We reject," he wrote back. "We restate our original terms." The cabin was worth less than a third of what I was owed. They thought I'd take the gesture, give them peace, and trade substance for a hand-me-down. I wasn't interested in symbols. I wanted acknowledgement. I met Dorsey the next morning and laid out what mattered. A formal payment plan for unpaid rent, a third-party property manager for all future income, and a written admission of financial misrepresentation. "I want it in writing," I said, "and I want it signed." He nodded once. "Then that's what we'll demand." While the back and forth dragged, their seams split. Noel lost over 5,000 followers in a week. Someone from high school recognized me in her stream and started posting receipts. A couple of sponsors dropped her. She deleted the eviction video, but the internet doesn't forget. Dad's business took a hit too. A client saw a clip and backed out. Then a loan application got flagged. When banks rechecked ownership, the trust surfaced. Mom stopped texting. Griffin sent one angry email that Dorsey forwarded without comment. Noel tried calling twice. I let it ring. When their lawyer finally answered, the tone had shifted. Less combative, more careful. They agreed to everything: monthly payments, third-party oversight, and a written acknowledgement signed by all four. I read it twice before signing. At the bottom, above my name, I added a line of my own. Truth isn't betrayal. It's what remains when the show is over. I sent it back and waited. One thing still had to happen. The apartment was small, but it was mine. One bedroom, uneven floorboards, and a draft in the kitchen window that whistled when wind picked up. But the lease had my name on it, and the first month's rent came from my paycheck at the new welding job. No shared space, no borrowed time, no cameras at the door. 2 days after I moved in, an envelope arrived. A check, the first installment of back rent they owed. Paper clipped to it was a folded note in my mother's handwriting. We hope we can put this behind us and be a family again. Love, Mom. I stared a long moment. Not because it moved me, but because of how little it did. No apology, no ownership, just a hope I'd forget what it cost to finally be left alone. I set the check in a drawer. I didn't reply. That night, unpacking the last box, I found my old external drive. I plugged it in without thinking and skimmed the folders. College. Papers, photos, invoices, and then Grandpa Wave. I clicked. Hey, kiddo. If you're hearing this, I guess I'm not around anymore. But remember this. You're going to be okay, even if they never say they're sorry. Some people only value you when you're useful to them. When you stop letting them, they call it betrayal. Let them. You keep being you. I sat for a while, letting his voice fill the room. No shouting, no silence used as a weapon. Just steady. Warmth echoing from a borrowed speaker in a place that belonged only to me. I hit save, backed up the file, and set the drive in the drawer beside the